Hello, everyone, and welcome to GFB Thursday. As usual, we're here in this space to have a good conversation with good people. Don't have to be like-minded to be here. Just come with an open mind and a growth mindset. As a good friend of mine always likes to make sure we're in. If you're fixed on something and you only think a certain way, then you're going to be uncomfortable. So come to a space like this prepared to participate for one and grow and be encouraged for another. We're all in this struggle together. This thing called life is not easy, and it's better when we have communication and understanding. So with that being said, tonight I wanted to make sure I touched on a subject that's near and dear, and if you guys don't know me by now, it's definitely got a lot to do with the Black American experience. My focus on how things are in this country is centered on the Black American experience. So tonight's topic was titled "Coming In from the Cold." Is specific redress on the horizon, and I'm basing that on discussions that are centered around the 100-year anniversary of the dastardly events that took place in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Everybody probably knows it better as Black Wall Street. Really atrocious acts took place. And I'm going to play a couple of clips to frame this discussion, because what we're witnessing and what has happened over the last week or so during this recognition of those events, discussions around repair or reparations for Black Americans comes up, specifically for the group that experienced the atrocities in Tulsa, but on a more broad scale for Black Americans in general. The discussion's there. So is there an opportunity for real tangible results to take place? We'll have to wait and see, I guess, and hope the discussion continues. But I'm going to play a couple of clips in a row, and I'm going to begin with one of the oldest survivors of the events that took place in Tulsa, and let her give her testimony. And then we'll play a couple of others to frame tonight's discussion. I want to thank Bob and Tango for joining us tonight, and of course Danya for doing all he does behind the scenes. So without further ado, here's a clip of the oldest survivor of the Tulsa massacre.
First witness is Miss Viola Fletcher, also known, if I can, Mother Fletcher. Thank you. I don't have a mother, so thank you. Mother Fletcher is the oldest living survivor of the Tulsa Race Massacre. He was 7 years old when she lived through the massacre. Mother Fletcher, you are now recognized to testify. Is the microphone on?
My name is Viola Ford Fletcher. I'm the daughter of Lucinda Ellis and John Wesley Ford of Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm the sister of Hughes Van Ellis, who is also here today. I'm a survivor of the Tulsa Race Massacre. 2 weeks ago, I celebrated my 107th birthday. Today, I'm visiting Washington, D.C. for the first time in my life. I'm here seeking justice, and I'm asking my country to acknowledge what happened in Tulsa in 1921. On May 31st, in 21, I went to bed in my family's home in Greenwood, neighbors of Tulsa, the neighborhood. I fell asleep in that night, was rich, not just in terms of wealth, but in culture, humanity, heritage, and my family had a beautiful home. We had great neighbors, and I had friends to play with. I felt safe. I had everything a child could need. I had a bright future ahead of me. Greenwood could, excuse me, yeah. Still, Greenwood should have given me the chance to truly make it in this country. Within a few hours, all of that was gone. The night of the massacre, I was awakened by my family. My parents and 5 siblings were there. I was told we had to leave, and that was it. I will never forget the violence of the white mob when we left our home. I still see black men being shot, black bodies lying in the street. I still smell smoke and see fire. I still see black businesses being burned. I still hear airplanes flying overhead. I hear the screams. I have lived through the massacre every day. Our country may forget this history, but I cannot. I will not. And other survivors do not. And our descendants do not. When my family was forced to leave Tulsa, I lost my chance of an education. I never finished school past the 4th grade. I have never made much money in my country. State and city took a lot from me. Despite this, I spent time supporting the war effort in the shipyards of California. But most of my life, I was a domestic worker serving white families. I never made much money, but to this day, I can barely afford my everyday needs. All the while, the city of this Tulsa have unjustly used the names and stories of victims like me to enrich myself and its white allies through the 30s million through the 30s million ways. By the Tulsa Centennial Commissioner, while I was continued to live in poverty. I am a 107-year-old and have never seen justice. I pray that one day I will. I have been blessed with a long life and have seen the best and the worst of this country. I think about the terror, horror inflicted upon black people in this country every day. This continued committee has the power to lead us down a better path. I'm asking that my country acknowledge what has been happened to me, the traumas and the pain, the loss, and I ask the survivors and descendants to be given a chance to seek justice, open the door. All of you know how easy it is to deny that a violent mob threatened your lives and took your property. For 70 years, the city of Tulsa and its Chamber of Commerce told us that the massacre didn't happen, like we didn't see it with our own eyes. You have me here right now. You see Mother Randall, you see my brother Hughes, Van Ellis. We live this history and we can't ignore it. It's our lives with us. We lost everything that day, our homes, our churches, our newspapers, our theaters, our lives. Greenwood represented all the best of what was possible for black people in America and for all the people. No one cared about us for almost 100 years. We and our history have been forgotten, washed away. This Congress must recognize us and our history. For Black America, for the white Americans, and for all Americans, with That's some justice. Thank you. I thought it was another page. No, it's not.
Thank you very much. We appreciate very much your testimony.
All right.
Mother Fletcher, if we don't learn from history,
clip
we're doomed to repeat
I wanted to
so thank
play,
you for putting.
and let me stop that from playing. And I have two others, but Miss Fletcher is what you would call a primary source, correct? I mean, she was there and witnessed it. At 7 years old, your memory's working just fine. But that's neither here nor there in the whole totality. They know it happened. We know it happened. What are we going to do about it, and what have we done about it are the questions. And she just gave a whole life story reflecting nothing being done about it. She talked specifically about what it cost her in terms of education and opportunity, and what she ended up doing for a living. Can you imagine possibly working for some of the same type people that may have visited that atrocity upon you? My gosh. So contemplate that. Now I'm going to play a couple other clips that are speaking about the events that were supposed to take place this past week. So give me 1 second to share this screen.
So we were all crushed and all disappointed.
Well, that's the reaction of the project director of the Centennial Commission after its main commemoration event canceled.
Community leader Greg Robinson posted this message to Facebook in the hours after the announcement. But, quote, if you don't support reparations and justice, you shouldn't be commemorating the Tulsa Race Massacre.
2 News' Brady Halbleib joins us live now. Brady, what other reactions are we seeing this morning to all of this surprising news?
Yeah, the news is not only a disappointment for many members of the Tulsa Black community, but the entire city, as well as thousands of people were supposed to be here at One Oak Field for the Remember and Rise commemoration on Monday. The commemoration was supposed to feature John Legend and Stacey Abrams, the Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission announcing yesterday. There were unexpected circumstances with entertainers and speakers. Commission Director Phil Armstrong not going into detail about what happened when we asked, saying he couldn't comment on Abrams or Legend's schedule. He says the weekend isn't about them, but honoring the victims and survivors of the massacre.
So, yes, we are all disappointed, but that disappointment pales in comparison to what we are doing.
The cancellation comes 1 day before a new Black Lives Matter street is set to be unveiled on Pine and Peoria. Many members of the Tulsa Black community saw this event as momentum in the right direction, but for now, it remains as a big disappointment. For now, in Tulsa, Brady Halbleib, 2 News.
We could not respond to those demands. We could not respond to those demands.
New at 6, new information about why Tulsa's Remember and Rise event was canceled. Race Massacre Commission Chair State Senator Kevin Matthews holding a news conference late this afternoon to explain why he says that the Race Massacre commemoration event was called off at the last minute. Joining us live now with those details is 2 News reporter Jeanette Quesada. Jeanette?
Well, Karen, many people have been wanting to know why the Remember and Rise event scheduled for Monday was canceled, and today Senator Kevin Matthews provided some context that led them to reach that decision. This announcement comes as the Black Wall Street Legacy Festival gets underway in the Greenwood District, Senator Kevin Matthews started off by emphasizing that the commemoration is not about one event, but about remembering those impacted by the massacre. Matthews says the Centennial Commission was approached recently by legal representatives of some of the survivors about paying them for their participation. He says Pastor Ray Owens brought the commission and lawyers together, and they agreed to provide $100,000 to each survivor and a seed gift of $2 million for a reparations coalition fund. He thought they had reached an agreement and the money was raised, but says the next day the lawyers came back and increased that amount to $1 million for each survivor and $50 million in seed funding. He says they could not respond to those demands, but that he agrees that the survivors and descendants should be financially and emotionally supported. He still believes they will be supported by this weekend's events.
It's my hope that what people remember from this weekend is an outpouring of support for survivors, for descendants, for justice and reparations, not a concert.
Now, Stacey Abrams and John Legend were initially scheduled to headline the Remember and Rise event. Now, we have reached out to them, but we have not yet heard any comment as to why they are not going to be participating in that event. And again, the Centennial Commission says that they do hope to reschedule the event for sometime later on this year. Like Greenwood, Janae Quesada, 2 News.
And just within the last 20 minutes, a response from the lawyer representing the survivors. In a statement, attorney DeMario Solomon Simmons said there was never a non-negotiable demand for a $50 million. The non-negotiable issues were that the fund would provide direct financial support to survivors and descendants, and that the fund would be administered by descendants and community members, and the fund be held in a black bank. We'll have the complete statement for you in our app and online at kjreach.com.
All right. Well, I think I served the purposes I intended to by playing all of those clips. I hope there's better context to what we'll hopefully be discussing for the next few minutes. I want to, kind of hone in on that last thing also. The lawyer for those descendants sends out something that counters the narrative that was announced by the organizers. Don't know enough, not in detail enough, but what resonates with me is it seems that every time Black Americans ask for something or it is remotely skewed towards redress, there's a bunch of hand wringing and whataboutism that takes place, even when something is as clear and intimate as the Tulsa race massacre. It's just amazing to me. So John Legend, Stacey Abrams, sorry, but yeah, that's a part of the problem. The symbolism's got to stop. Tangible things have to be made apparent. So just to begin tonight, Tango, I want to start with you. If you have thoughts or things you share based on the clips. I don't have a specific question at the moment other than the things that I've just talked around. So what are your thoughts generally on what you just watched?
What's the survivor's name again? Did you catch her name?
If you hadn't asked, I would have been able to tell you. I'll have it for you in just a second.
Anyway, okay. But one, I'm so thankful that she is still alive to tell her story and be an eyewitness. And it's tragic. And it was bad individuals, but it's a whole system. It was the city giving weapons and bringing destruction upon a neighborhood just because of fear of competition, empowerment, you know, just financial stability and prosperity within that neighborhood made them so upset that you're willing to kill people and destroy everything that they have. But one in her statement, she said she's seen the best and the worst of this country. And I do disagree with that statement. In her 107 years of living, she has never seen the best of this country, because the best of this country has not happened. And I'm sorry for her and me and all of us that we're not there yet.
Yeah. And we seem to not desire to be. I just wanted to give you, her name was Miss Viola Fletcher.
Okay, Miss Fletcher.
And I want you to stay on mic so you can continue your thoughts. But I want to make this point really quickly. There was a reason that the massacre began that is not often discussed, and it's reflective of something that is in the fabric of America post-Civil War, especially, and that encouraged the rise in lynching and violence towards Black Americans, and more precisely Black American men. And it was the fear of the violation of white women that is the catalyst for the Tulsa massacre. A Black man bumped into a white woman on the elevator, if I'm not mistaken. The elevator jerked and he happened to hit her, and or bump into her, whatever the case may be. And I forget the names involved at that point, but that was the catalyst. It was, a bridge too far, or whatever the case may be, that excuses violence towards Black people. And as you just stated, it became a back and forth because there was a portion of the town, the Black side of town, that had means and the ability to defend themselves as much as they could. And so that was a catalyst. This has been for a lot of atrocious acts, just the possibility that a white woman was violated, quote,
that's
violated.
The scapegoat.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But please continue.
I don't know. You've thrown me way off with the catalyst there. Like,
hey,
too much.
It's been a part of the Wilmington massacre, 1898. There's some of that inside of that also. There's been this fear associated with
the face of it.
Yeah.
That's the face. That's what you put out there. That's how you justify your actions. But the real fear is you're losing your money.
Oh, I'm glad. So this is good. This is what we're here for, and I'm going to get to you in just a second, Bob. So from an economical standpoint, historically speaking, again, the imbalance in terms of an ability to earn a living and a wage in America has so many ties in race now, that and representation for fair treatment. That the fusion movement in Wilmington was definitely a big part of that. Blacks and whites coming together, Republicans during the time of, not too far removed from Lincoln, the Lincoln Republican. So you're right. There's some economics that play a role, but what happened was this value was placed on whiteness. So it became about, at least we're not those people or those things, the dehumanizing factor. So it's still not just about money. That racism, that just disdain for the other, and that long programming, that long seasoning of devaluing a human being because of their melanin plays a big role. But the Black man and the white woman was the, like you said, it was the excuse, the reason, but it gave them the green light in so many times and capacities to commit some of the most atrocious acts. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
So it's not exactly, there are two things at play, well, three, but one, it's not only or ultimately, well, it could be ultimately the fear of you losing your power or money, but it's the fear of me gaining it. It's the fear of you, Felton or Danya, gaining it. I know if I can do what you do as well as you do it, then where's the inferiority? And so if I'm not inferior, so how are you, Bob, superior? Like, it's just, that dynamic at play. It does come back. It's race, it's rooted in racism, of course. And racism, that race is constructed because of economics, because of economic gain and to oppress. So I don't know. I'm gonna throw it on to Bob. Or
I'm gonna come to you. I'm loving this, Tango, because you're saying some things that I definitely want to open up in this discussion. But Bob, I'm coming right to you. Tango is very important. So much is steeped in purely devaluation of another people. Mm-hmm. No economics is involved at certain points. There could be both individuals, white or black, that have absolutely nothing. Chris Rock made a really good joke, and this is just a quick aside, but a good joke about how I forget how he worded it, but the poorest white person wouldn't trade places with him, even though he's a rich black man. There's value in whiteness. There's an understanding that you are entitled to something, and there's been other groups who come to this country that get that, and it just allows for you to live a more tolerable existence, so to speak. You're protected in certain ways. The discussion we had last week about policing in America. There's when the Italians become white, when the Irish become white, when the Polish become white. So there's so many other groups that can just come to this country, and eventually they get the protections of what whiteness is in America. So economics does have a place, but it is not the root. The economics was the free labor. It's the free labor that was provided by the influx of enslaved people. But I love it. So let's keep going. Bob, I want to hear your thoughts, and Tango, we definitely will come back.
The one thing that we also don't like to talk about is class, and the class structure that we have always had, that we have always constructed. And the free labor was about economics, absolutely. The misrepresentations was about justifying slavery, giving it a logical reason to be something that was okay, rooted in lies, rooted in misrepresentations. The matter of having property, the matter of controlling, the matter of limiting education, the matter of making education a crime, the matter of all of those sorts of things during slavery was about control, and was about keeping control, and about maintaining a system that disallowed the possibility of slaves gaining control. After slavery, what do? We create new laws that can be applied majoritively to now freed slaves. We create new laws that give us justification for arresting former slaves. Arresting former slaves gives us the freedom to control again. It gives us the freedom to keep freedoms from those people that are now arrested. It gives us the ability to use those people as free or really cheap labor for companies and employers again. It perpetuates the system. And we continue to build that system. We continue to build that system, and everything that threatens that system, there's a reaction to. And when there's a reaction, like in Tulsa, it's allowed. It's allowed to happen. It's allowed to go unpunished.
See, really quickly, let me interject something really quickly, Bob. And this is important to Tango's earlier point and to where I think you're headed. And I may not be in the right place, but please just bear with me. Similar type of successes were taking place in Durham, North Carolina.
Correct.
So Tango, that jealousy of money, economic empowerment did not cause catastrophic events to take place there. But there was a level of communication amongst the well-to-do elites, the black elites and the white elites. I would probably be confirmed if I explored it. There was probably some similar type of chemistry in Tulsa. But that event, that one thing that allows for all kinds of atrocious behavior takes place in a accusation of a black man assaulting a white woman, and it allows for whatever may come. And Bob, I wanted to interject that because you have don't it's not always just one way, and I'm not saying that that's what you were saying, but it's not always one way. There's other examples, right?
No, and the business of black men taking advantage of white women was a very prevalent myth and justification. Did anybody ever ask how many white men have taken advantage of black women over history? The numbers, in fact, are clear that vastly more white men have taken advantage of black women over history than the other way around. And yet we created, as we have always done, we create these stories and we create these myths and we create this fear. And we then use that fear to justify whatever the hell we want to do. And for decades, we've been able to get away with it. And if I understand the matter of suspending the events in Tulsa, I think it's an issue of we need to stop kicking the can down the road. We need to do something meaningful. We need to stop just kicking the can down the road. We need to stop just having a concert and a celebration around something when we've not done anything to make amends for it.
Right. And it is exhausting and excruciating. And I have to believe for someone who's lived 107 years, utterly disappointing.
Oh, and I think when she says, when she says, I've seen the best, I suspect that her view of her life when she was 6 and 7 years old might have been an example of the best experience black families have had. It's not the best in America, for sure. To Tango's point, it's not the best in America, but it was probably the best, an example of the best that black people had ever experienced up until that time, and it was completely jerked away. And to your point, Felton, you're exactly right. She ends up making a little bit of money, hardly enough to live on, working for families that represent the crowd of people that took all that away. So how unimaginably hard, and how much grace would she have to pull into her heart every day to live that life? It's just incomprehensible.
Yeah, it truly is. I can remember reflecting with my grandmother over her life at points in conversations, and she was someone who worked at a retirement home, and she would share with me some of the treatment that she received by the elderly white people that she was tasked with caring for, because generally, especially during the time she worked in those places, the primary occupants were older white people who had the means to live in retirement communities and such, or elder care centers. But yeah, the treatment was atrocious. But it's in our bones, man. It's in our DNA in America to devalue what it is to be a Black American.
And it's in our bones to create story and myth to justify and reinforce and justify and reinforce and justify and reinforce. And even now, it's like this whole race theory business. Oh gosh, for heaven's sakes, don't tell the truth, because that might make white people look bad. Screw it.
Yeah, and I want to ask a question, and I want to start with you on this one, Tango. And I think it'll actually attach to what you were saying earlier and allow for you to expand exponentially, so to speak, in terms of the Black American experience. So why is, and when I say your, I mean everyone. So why is Black American life worthy of your consideration? So when I say your, I mean everyone's. But why is it worthy of consideration? You said something earlier that I think you can circle back to, but I'll wait and see if you do so. Why is Black American life worthy of consideration?
Is that a trick question? Is that a trick question, Felton? We're humans. I mean, why wouldn't Black life be worthy of consideration? That's a better question. Why would it not be worthy?
Please continue, because you said something earlier that I know attaches to this way of thinking, and it is basically when you alluded to the fact that you just stated we're human, but you alluded to another fact that is regarding just America.
Just tell me what I said.
America has yet to live up to what it said it is, right? That's what you were alluding. America has yet to live up to what it says it is. How do we get to that point? we value the least of us. We consider the least of us. If we do that, if we consider Black American life, I think it gets us to the place that you say we've never been. That you say that the lady that survived the massacre, I'm terrible with names. Yeah, Miss Fletcher, the place that you say she's never seen, right?
Yeah.
Her community might have been awesome. I agree with you, Bob. I think that's exactly what she was saying. She may even have been speaking about moments in her life where she, living through that amount of trauma, having moments of peace and safety. Yeah, she might have seen some of the better moments of this country. Think about that in terms of our own personal life. As much as I can talk about this stuff, I've never been at a point where I knew that if I went a certain direction, if I looked too long at this person, or if I misstepped or misspoke, my life was on the line, and there would be no punishment to those who visited violence upon me. So yeah.
Well, I think your question, how do we can't mean Black people. How do they, meaning white people, get to the point where this country's better? I'm in a space where I promote racial equity work, I have to. Like, I have to do that. I'm a Black woman with 7 Black children that I love deeply and can only so much. I can't really change that. Like, it's work that I'm willing to do alongside people, but I don't have the power or influence to make that change. So it's not it's not what can I do to change the system. I didn't create it, and I don't have, as a Black individual, I don't have the power to change it. I have the power of advocacy and voice, but Bob and other white people have to listen to that. I think I froze. My internet's really bad.
We
But
can hear
it's a
you
they
though.
it's a they problem. It's a
So
they issue.
so
And I'll
I'll
do
say
what I can because I have to do what I can.
that's what I'm like. You're doing what the we would be doing. You have to speak truth to the situation. You have to speak experience. Gosh, so she's testifying to Congress that, again, a primary source in terms of being a historian is the most valuable source for making your argument. So if I'm writing, if my thesis is to say that Black people in Tulsa are owed reparations for what happened to them, and I'll say repair because
you guys
I know
can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We good. Can you still hear me? Okay, so if I say was to formulate this argument, this thesis, man, I would have to, before any more time passes, I would have to reach out to Miss Viola Fletcher for her firsthand account. She is a primary source. Yet she's on Capitol Hill. She's testifying. She's saying what happened to her. And it is more reflective of a celebratory moment. There's one lady, a Congress lady, holding up a camera, recording it. And there's this glowing look from the senator or the congressman, whoever he was that was questioning. Come on, man. She's asking for something specific. She's speaking specifically about what she experienced. And there's no conversation about that. The events that were canceled were a direct reflection of people saying, wait a minute, we've done all we can here to survive, to thrive, to be a part of making this country better. And we still don't have anything to show for it as a whole. We have a couple of celebrities that'll come and sing and a couple of throw some dollars around and say we're better off than we actually are as a unified group of people to be recognized. But the truth is a little bit different. Go ahead, Tango. It looks like you're definitely clearer now.
Oh, no, I guess I'm kind of at a loss. She's there. She's in DC. Miss Fletcher is telling a story that they already know. And don't care enough. Don't care enough. You can't make her whole from that situation because you stole from her part of childhood, her home, traumatized her family. She lost neighbors. You can't bring those lives back, but you can pay her, and you can pay her descendants, and you can pay all the descendants. And that was a community But it happened everywhere across this country. Everywhere. Not to that level on that one night. I mean, reparations, absolutely. To me, I don't like when people say, you know, so affirmative action. I've never thought it should be called that. What is it affirming? Like, that needs to be a form of repair. You're not validating me in any way. How's it affirmative?
It wasn't
what
anyway,
does it
right?
affirm?
Exactly.
And so it's like, I mean, here we go again, back to the mighty dollar. Even this 107-year-old victim of domestic terror that is founded, it's truthful, we all know it happened, but the system, the powers that be, would like for her to die in lack.
I say
because she's Black.
Because what?
Because
anytime, as Bob alluded to, something comes up to confront it, combat it, it finds a new way to exist, and it will wait you out. It'll wait people out. One of the most poignant things my grandmother said a few years ago when Donald Trump was elected president of this country, and it resonated with me so much, was she said, "You don't think they're gonna bring back old Jim Crow, do you?" I, as a historian, in the process of becoming one, I know what that is, but I didn't experience it. She did. So when she says it, it hits a little different. It's not something in a book or a documentary or something I hear about. It's more personalized. There's some legacy to it. There's some trauma that I know she carries. So, yeah, you fix that by making people whole and safe. Two things that were possible during Reconstruction, and two things that were snatched away. Before we get out of here, and this has been a wonderful discussion. It's really great. Before we get out of here, Tango, I want to give you an opportunity to say a couple words if you have any, and then I'm going to go to Bob and we can wrap this up. Anything you want to say lastly?
You know, it's just when I hear Miss Fletcher, when I look at her, I see the trauma. I
broke up for a second.
Her strength.
Okay.
But that's me looking at her. And unfortunately, there's a large segment of our population that can't see that because of her Blackness.
Yeah, that's the deep. Go ahead.
No, and I was going to say, not only Miss Fletcher, all of us. So it doesn't matter the trauma I experience. It doesn't matter the hardship. It doesn't matter the differences, because I'm Black.
That dehumanization, that mentality that centers on Black Americanness, it is hard to break through it from a whole lot of angles. And Bob, you said something about class. It resonates there. If you're Black American and you are moderately successful, have means, you can look down upon those that look like you with the same or near the same amount of vitriol as the whitest of the white and the most ardent racists. There is a lot that is built on the backs of Black Americans, and there's a lot that is made to be stepped upon on the backs of Black Americans. Bob, I'm gonna let you get a couple words in before we get out of here. I hope tonight has been edifying to us all, and I thank you for coming through, Tango, and Danya for what you do. So, Bob, go ahead and say a couple words for the people.
To what you just said, something that's really unfortunate is that Black people, some number, I'll say, of Black people that do find themselves with economic success, with a sense of place in the larger community, are so fearful of jeopardizing that place that they don't, and I don't say this judgmentally, I just say this as a matter of fact, they don't take the opportunity to do some of the things that they could do. And again, I don't say that judgmentally, I say that as a matter of fact. It's like, I've found my way that works for me. You guys are on your own. That said, I completely agree with Tango. This is a white problem to solve. This is not the oppressed, the disadvantaged can't solve the problem that other people made for them. It's got to be undone by the people that made the problem. And we're not in a good place at all right now, particularly because we can't even agree on facts. So if we can't even agree on facts, how do we agree on strategies to deal with solutions relative to the facts? We are such a delusional and self-delusional lot of people, particularly white people. We like to, I use the term whitewash. I mean, that's what we do. We don't want to really go there to where the truth is. And we defend, we deny, we get our feelings all raw about it. Which none of which makes sense to me, quite frankly. None of that makes any sense to me, but I know it to be true. So, until we agree that we've got to be intentional around addressing and implementing strategies that offset the harm that we have done over all these years, we're going to continue to live in myth and discomfort and unhappiness. And I think that until we actually bridge communities where we actually have friends, people we care about, as opposed to having these opinions around myth. You ask, why should black people, I don't remember exactly how you ask it, but why should black people be valued or something like that? Because black people, good, wonderful black people are as wonderful as any people. And what we would miss, what I personally would miss, is too great to imagine. And I'm grateful that I've had a life of opportunity to have really, really good black friends and relationships and whatnot, such that I know what I would miss. And I know what I don't want to miss.
Yeah, good people. Human beings, as Tango said. That's what you would miss. Some human beings that just happen to have a little bit more melanin. And it's why Black American life is worthy of your consideration. It's worthy because we're all better for it.
Correct.
We're all better for it. Not me, not Tango, not Don. All of us are better for it. That's why it's worthy of our consideration. I appreciate you guys.
Can I say
go ahead,
one
Tango.
last thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we don't have to be good or wonderful to be worthy. We just have to be born.
It's got to be people. We're flawed, make mistakes, fall down, get up. Hey, you're right. Absolutely right. And I appreciate you guys for sharing this space and time. It means a lot, and it means a lot to keep going forward with these thoughts and things in mind, to be more unified, more positive, better together. And Tango, if that's our part and role to play in the brief time we have here in this on this mud ball floating through space, let's make the most of it. Let's do the best we can with what we got and know that we did it. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Danya. Thank you, Tango. Appreciate you guys showing up and showing out tonight. Y'all have a wonderful night. Appreciate you.
Good night.
All right.